Tomorrow's much-anticipated return of the House January 6th committee, the first hearing in nearly 2 months, has been postponed as Hurricane Ian advances toward the Gulf Coast of Florida. The storm has halted what Trump and his MAGA supporters in Congress could not. A series of highly effective hearings, as laid out by member Jamie Raskin as he rebutted Republican criticism last week.
You pulled the plug on the investigation you originally advocated because Donald Trump didn't want it. Let's tell some truth.
Would you like
You're talking about truth effects? I'm giving you the truth. Again, you guys boycotted it because you wanted to put pro-insurrection members on the committee. And so we ended up with a bipartisan committee of people really interested in getting to the facts. And you know what? This is what you guys can't stand. America listened to it because we had real congressional hearings and 25, 30 million Americans watching because we told the truth about Donald Trump's assault on democratic institutions and the right to vote in America. And maybe you can't handle the truth, but that's the reality, and nobody's laid a glove on any of the testimony that has come out during those hearings.
You can't handle the truth, said Jamie Raskin. We have learned that among the tranche of new evidence we are likely to see when the hearings are rescheduled is documentary footage from Trump's former advisor and longtime friend Roger Stone, filmed by Danish filmmakers in the months leading up to the attack on the Capitol. That includes a clip where Stone seemingly predicts 4 months before the election that they would never accept the results if they lost.
What they're assuming is that the election will be normal. The election will not be normal. Oh, these are the California results? Sorry, we're not accepting them. We're challenging them in court. If the electors show up at the Electoral College, armed guards will throw them out. I'm the president. You. You're not stealing Florida. You're not stealing Ohio. I'm challenging all of it. And the judges we're going to are judges I appointed. You. You're not stealing the election.
That clip is a reminder that the idea that an election can simply be overturned is a long-standing belief of Roger Stone's, since he was involved in a nearly identical scheme in Florida in 2000, complete with the same false claims of voter fraud. Stone then used those claims of mass hundreds of operatives on Miami-Dade County, staging the so-called Brooks Brothers riot, demanding an end to the statewide recount on George W. Bush's behalf, to take away from the legitimate statewide recount and force Bush into office. The postponement of tomorrow's January 6th hearing adds to the many moving parts for the committee to contend with before it completes its work. It's expected to interview Ginny Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, in the coming weeks. As the New York Times notes, it must still decide whether to issue subpoenas to Trump and to former Vice President Mike Pence. It also has yet to settle on whether to enforce subpoenas issued to Republican members of Congress who've refused to cooperate with the inquiry. Joining me now is former U.S. Senator Doug Jones of Alabama, who is a distinguished senior fellow at the Center for American Progress, and Neil Katyal, MSNBC legal analyst and former acting Solicitor General. And Neil, I do want to start with you because Roger Stone, we've talked about this on the show before, is an interesting character because he had exactly the same idea 20 years ago, and so did John Eastman. This idea that you just simply say, we won, and then you effectuate maybe even a little violence to see to it that no one really challenges you. Let me play another clip from him. This is from November 1st. This is before the election, 2 days before the election. More Roger Stone.
Let's just hope we're celebrating.
Yeah.
I really do suspect it will still be up in the air. But when that happens, the key thing to do is to claim victory. Possession is 9/10 of the law. No, we won. You. Sorry, over. We won. Yeah. You're wrong. You.
And his response to that clip, his response to it today is the lesson of 2000 when the election was in dispute. James A. Baker got George Bush to declare victory. He was considered a genius. I suggest the same thing, and they say, oh, well, that's criminal conduct. Is there a difference?
Oh, yeah. He is anything but a genius, Joy. So first of all, this guy is letting a camera crew go and follow him around and videotape him in the weeks leading up to the January 6th riot. And even if the film doesn't show that he directly committed a crime, I have no doubt that it's going to have intensely valuable insight for both the January 6th committee and federal investigators. And I think that Roger Stone is likely to soon join Steve Bannon in the esteemed club of Trump henchmen who received pardons for their criminal convictions, only eventually to commit further crimes. So,
yeah,
like this clip that you just showed is really good evidence that Trump and his allies had prepped their election denial strategies far before the election ever took place. You know, Trump's whole claims, they weren't genuine concerns about election fraud. This was a pre-planned thing in the playbook, a desperate, undemocratic attempt to cling to power.
Right. And I mean, the thing is, Senator Jones, I mean, it was fairly clear. If you looked at the polling, it seemed pretty clear to me that Joe Biden was going to win. And you know, and there is some reporting out there that Trump was concerned that he was going to lose. And so it's kind of hard to claim that they had a genuine belief that there was some sort of fraud when they're saying before the election even takes place, a month and then 2 days before, oh, we're just going to say we won, meaning it doesn't matter if we won.
I think you're absolutely right, Joy. I mean, to me, everything, the first thing that hit me when I was hearing all of that is that these guys knew they were going to lose. They were setting up what is going to happen after they lose. And Neil's just absolutely right. I mean, the fact that they thought they were going to lose, the fact that they probably knew they were going to lose, and setting this all up is pretty damning evidence about the plans that were going to be put in place going forward. That I think the January 6th committee has done a pretty good job of putting some compelling evidence for connecting all of those dots.
Yeah, and Neil, this is a question I have. Does the committee need to prove that in addition to knowing they were going to lose and having a plan in place, this Eastman-style memorandized plan to sort of play with the electors, did Trump need to also know that you had Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and 3%ers meeting the day before January 6th on January 5th in the garage in D.C., and that they had violence in mind? Does the committee need to make that connection, that these guys, you see them there, Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, you see Enrique Tarrio on the end, you see the lady in the front that's an Oath Keepers. Does he need to know that they also plan to use violence in order for him to be guilty of seditious conspiracy?
No, I mean, it's what we call in the law gravy. I mean, it's like it'd be if that evidence does exist, that establishes a seditious conspiracy, or at least a conspiracy to commit violence between Trump himself and the Proud Boys who are going on trial right now as we speak. But there are other conspiracies that the January 6th committee has been investigating, as well as federal and state investigators, Joy, including this whole fake electors plot that John Eastman and others cooked up. And there doesn't need to be any overlap between the two. It's kind of an old law all the way going back to the Supreme Court case in 1943 of Kotiakos. You can have multiple different conspiracies. Prosecutors just need to prove one. And, at this point, Donald Trump is facing many, many different investigations into many conspiracies.